Seems pretty chill. That hat makes me happy.
Welcome to the Unlearning Curve. We're going to talk today about why saying no can also be holy, but also end your date quicker. Where we talk about boundaries and choice, two things your former pastor said are from the devil. So we're going to unlearn all of that nonsense and hopefully talk about reclaiming your right to opt out without guilt. But before we get to that, Carl, let's do a check-in on you. What's new in your world? Do you have any wares you want to speak of?
Yeah. Since we've been talking about grifters, I might as well grift a little bit here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a new book out. I'm pretty proud of it because it's called Campfires in the Desert, a travel guide for deconstruction, something like that. And the thing that I'm really proud about, we've done about 400 interviews on the Desert Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people tell us, well, this worked for me, this helped me in deconstruction, we've been kind of compiling that stuff. It's not a bunch of stories from actual, from people, but it's the stories from people that fueled our understanding. And we've been condensing that down and refining it over the years. So then I also have like the 15 big questions, and you won't want this book if you're looking for, LGBTQ, race issues, and so on, because most people, they get a little ways through deconstruction, have already dealt with that, and if there's a hell and stuff like that. But this deal with the more complicated questions, the bigger issues, but what I really wanted to cover was the mistake I made of coming out, and my denomination taught me to start something new. So they should start something new. And so that's what I was trying to do, trying to be a coach or something, or a spiritual director. But I didn't stop and heal. And I want people to stop and heal before they start something new, before they get a website to promote their new ministry. So we really focused in the beginning on mental health and trauma and all this stuff we're learning now that's helping us so dramatically. I think people enjoy it. I think, just like what I read, The Lies We Believe About God from Paul Young, you might throw it against the wall a couple times. You're not going to agree with everything in there, but I think it'll challenge you to move along and like we talked about on this podcast a lot, do the hard work. And I think I spelled out a lot of that, of how you actually do that and what could be an approach. And hopefully I hear back from other people that have different ideas, and it'll spark discussion. So
It's a good book. I would recommend it. I have read through it, and it's one of those things like you're mentioning, Carl, that I wish I had something like this back when I started my deconstruction process. Because when you're kind of walking alone in the dark, you just stumble around a lot, and that is the hard work of growing. But it would have been nice to have had a guide, with me. And I feel like you very much have that voice.
Yeah. So the LGBTQ and racism and those kind of things are ongoing, lifelong discoveries. They take a long, long, long time to get there with those things. Those are important things, but I feel like most people in deconstruction are already dealing with those things and have good sources for information about those things. But there's very little in the deconstruction era about healing, actual mental health. That's the section we're on right now. They haven't dealt with it, and religion sometimes kind of keeps you off of that. It keeps you busy and ignoring your pain instead of dealing with it, doing the hard work like you guys talk about all the time. So that's it. That's my pitch.
So wait, what is this? What book is this? And where do we find this if I wanted to get my hands on the book?
Yeah, it's called Campfires in the Desert, a deconstruction travel guide. It has audio, Kindle, and paperback. So
available now.
Available now. As a
you got to read it to do your own research.
You do.
Yeah,
you
do your own research.
Even if you just want to shit on it, you got to at least read it.
I would recommend that too. The reading, not the shitting on it part. But yeah.
You both.
I don't know, either way, keeps Carl on his toes. But yeah, so we're talking about like mental health moment that we're hopping into for this segment, the power of boundaries and choice. How to like realizing or setting boundaries and realizing you have choice. How does that affect growing and healing and your mental health in general?
I'm just kind of blown away by how hard religion stresses a boundary with the world. It wants us to have a high wall against the outside world or anybody that disagrees with us.
Mm-hmm.
But then inside the walls, especially if you're in ministry and you see how the sausage is made, it's like, you said it's manipulation. You, Stuart, said it's manipulation framed as love. If you love Jesus, you'll help me get my dreams, right? And there's little or no boundaries. And we don't have much choice as to what to believe or what to think or what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of that forced compliance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And learned helplessness and a lot of things like that.
I don't think it's not to beat a dead horse, to bring back another metaphor we've used before, but I don't think it's new to build up those walls, because it's a classic tactic of like the religious intelligentsia, or like the powerful elite class of whatever religious movement you want to talk about, because it's really fucking hard when there's so many other alternative explanations and you have to fight against them. It's much easier to say, not to draw the parallel too succinctly, but build a fucking wall and like just block it out. Stop paying attention. Don't listen to your lying eyes. Just listen to what I tell you.
Yeah. When I was home for my aunt's funeral, my sister-in-law said, "We're going to all go to church with Mom because, she's getting older and she'd appreciate us all going to church together." And I said, "Well, I'm not going. I'll fix back breakfast or brunch or whatever we're going to have."
Can I go next time? Because I'd love to cause a problem at some rural church in America.
I mean, that is the main reason I don't go, because I know I'm going to say something.
That's mighty responsible of you. Because
if you do go, I want to can someone live stream this? Because I want to watch this happening.
That's why, I could see myself in Bible studies and at Sunday school classes, but it wouldn't be like before when I didn't speak up. I would have to say, well, you may want to, like JD says, you may want to consider this, but there's no F, and it is partly I'm worried about what I would do. But also that's not a good enough reason to go.
Yeah.
And especially my mom didn't ask me to go. It's just this, well, let's all just play along. Because she's not going to go to my yoga class. She's not going to come to anything I do that is outside of her belief system. She's not going to investigate yoga or meditation or anything like that.
So she's not going to go with you on your ayahuasca journeys?
No. If I had them, she wouldn't. No.
I was going to say, Grandma, it would be really nice if you'd come to the goat sacrifice that we're doing this afternoon at the Satanic Temple.
Yeah, right.
Sorry to shit on the Satanic Temple. They don't actually do goat sacrifices. I don't think they believe in anything.
They don't even.
It's called the
Satanic Temple and the other one is. What's the other one? Anyway, they don't. Neither one of them believe in an actual being.
Well, that's my thing. Is like, if you can't articulate, like people will be like, oh, they're Satanists. I'll be like, what kind of Satanists are they? And they don't know. And I'm like, if you don't know that they're LaVeyan Satanists, and that means they don't believe in anything, then your opinion is not worth anything to me, because you don't know what you're talking about. Like, if you don't understand the difference between LaVeyan Satanism and, like, let's say medieval Satanism, like, we're not having a conversation. I'm just talking to like a brick wall, basically.
It's frustrating when you run into the ignorance of Satanism people.
They don't get it. Come on, let's separate these.
Yeah, separate the goats from the goats. You
had mentioned being honest, Stuart.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that when someone says, "I'm just being honest"?
I think with being honest, I'm not exactly trying to look at the notes what I was writing. I did this a week ago, but I think being honest with ourselves, and being honest with people around us, because I think a lot of times we can be taught to just be, well, especially in church and otherwise, we can just be taught to be more quiet, submissive, kind of go with the flow, in many ways, or it could be through trauma has taught us to do that, knowing that there's situations where if we were to speak up or be ourselves, we would recognize it's going to create pain. And so some of that can be defense mechanisms, because I think that's, the hard thing with boundaries, at least one of the harder things that it's taken me a long time to be able to establish, is recognizing that like this, like I have my own space, I have my own autonomy, like I can do this, and these other systems are outside of that, and they can have opinions all day long about what they want to. Again, I still have to make my own decisions. Like I think of the scripture about honoring the father and mother. I feel like that has done so much damage
Right.
to people, or either been like hung over their heads as well too. Well, you're not honoring your father and mother, and I feel like that whole scripture, the way it's been taken, at least with a lot of Christianity, it's a recipe for abuse and trauma. I think for me learning that I can love and honor my parents, but the only way to do it is from a distance, is through those boundaries. If realizing like, yeah, if I'm going to be around you,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going to honor you because this is toxic, and I'm not honoring myself or honoring you. So I just take a step back and create boundaries. And
if that person in your life, if that person in your life won't talk about, their support of Trump, won't talk about their denomination of origin, that's giving you consternation, if they won't talk about those things, then why would I go to church with you? You're not going to talk about whether this is valid or not, or whether it's helpful. You won't let me ask questions. You won't let me cause trouble in Sunday school class. So why should I go? And also, don't answer questions people don't ask. So that person's not searching. So there's no need for me to give them my advice. That's part of boundaries, is not bossing people around or trying to be the Holy Spirit or whatever for other people. Right? I mean, you also mentioned a savior complex. Right? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that sometimes we can get caught in situations where we feel like we need to save everybody. And when we do that, oftentimes it's we're not paying attention to our own needs. And then we're also operating then probably out of a place of burnout. And then we're not really being the present people that we need to do to be who we are. And if we have the savior complex, I feel like we're looking at everybody as people to be solved or fixed, and not as people that have trauma and that need other things like that. I think it's difficult.
I think both of those relate to not like, to go from the previous one that we were talking about, like you're not respecting your parents or whatever, your father and mother, if you just like bend the knee to them. That's not respect. That's like fear, or just like, yeah, you're just giving them deference. That's not respect.
Yeah.
Like people that I respect, I challenge them on things, and I respect them because I know that I can challenge them, because I know that we can have a genuine discussion about the things they believe, and they don't withhold the things they believe from me to talk about something that Dad was kind of touching on earlier. Like we can actually have these conversations because we have mutual respect. And if you don't respect me, it's pretty fucking hard for me to respect you. But it's the same thing with sharing things with other people. Like if I respect you, I'm not just going to be like, and I think we talked about this before, here's a tract, here's a chick track or something. Like, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to be like, here's what I think. How do you respond to that? How do you feel about that? Because I respect you and I care about what you think.
You mentioned autonomy. Can you expand on that a little bit, or someone expand on that a little bit? I didn't know that word.
Having personal autonomy, like choice?
I didn't have it. But I look at my granddaughters. I don't know if this is a good example. You can tell me. My granddaughters, their mother, my daughter, has taught them to have some autonomy. If they don't hug you unless they want to, they'll tell you when they don't want something. They'll tell you what their choice is, and they still listen to reason, and they, you have to have parental involvement and help them learn and so on.
It's again not deferential. Like when Abby came to Taiwan, like it wasn't like they're allowed to do whatever they want, because certain of my nieces threw fits in restaurants and stuff, and Abby she doesn't just go, well, that's just what they're doing. Like that's their voice. Like they're just, no, she like grabs them, takes them to a quiet place that's calm, and then she talks to them. Like it's a dialogue. And like, yeah, it's like a small person who doesn't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex, but there's still that conversation going on. And like that builds trust. Like if she were to just be like, well, you're not doing what I want, so I'm going to hit you, I'm going to do violence, or I'm going to scream at you, or whatever, then they as they grow, they're not going to respect that. But building that mutual respect and saying like, okay, you don't want this, but like there's a certain, like if you say you don't want food for a week, like I can't do that, right? There's lines to stuff. There's you have this guidance, but there is a respect for boundaries, which is incredibly important to making people feel safe and then being open to growing more.
Yeah, and what does because I said so? What does that accomplish, really? Right? I mean, it sets them up for failure. Yeah, and it sets them up for failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sets them up to be dependent, learned codependence on
and to not question authority.
Authority, yeah, exactly.
That was like with my parents. It drove them crazy because we raised our kids to question things and respectfully ask questions and ask those whys and all of those kind of things. And we were fine with it. Like, as long as you're being respectful and not being like a little ass, you're fine. You're allowed to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents were of that mind of like, children are seen but not heard. And found them asking just general questions incredibly disrespectful. But again, in those situations, I feel like in those parental situations or other ones that may be like it, you have one person controlling what it means to be a part of the group, and the rest of the people don't have choice necessarily for how it operates. Like that. Just because I said so. I mean, that's such a control tactic too, for telling people, well, okay, whatever dad says goes. And
blog says, even when I'm wrong, I'm right. Because I'm your pastor.
Yeah.
Even when I make the wrong decision.
There's got to be a word for like a group like that, right? Where you just, even when I'm wrong, I'm right. You always listen to me, or I'm going to be angry or do violence.
Cults?
Is it called cult? Yeah. I think that might be right.
Yeah, no. Cultic.
I thought you meant Republicans.
At least.
That's a synonym.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thank you. No, but it's insane. It's insane. Like when you mentioned, autonomy. The simple idea that I can have an opinion, I can have my own thoughts, I can make my own choices, and follow through on my decisions, and that it's mine. Because I think that sometimes I feel like the church and other societal structures can put such an emphasis on family, because we've always heard like blood is thicker than water. Which I feel like is also abusive talk as well.
It's also a misquote of the phrase, but anyway.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. That next time someone says it, that phrase is misquoted.
Actually, if you look into the etymology of the word, you will find that you're incorrect.
I think he was mimicking me.
What was that?
I think he's mimicking me.
Oh gosh.
But
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt again, Stuart. I'm very chatty right now because you guys have piqued my interest.
Yes.
And I'm so delirious now that I just have to talk to stay awake. But
you're welcome.
There is like kind of part of that is that you, by having your own opinion and having to own that, then you can't scapegoat that on someone else. Because if I just take my dad's opinion and I'm like, and then someone's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, why did you think, oh, yeah, that's my dad's opinion. He's an idiot. Like, I can just so easily shirk that off.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to own that, then I have to go, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, actually, I have to think about that. I mean, you don't have to, right? You can always, kind of work around it. But like in general, if you're taught to critical think and then someone goes, yeah, actually, that's stupid. And here's why, X, Y, Z reason. Even if they're wrong, I still have to go do the work to like figure it out. I have to actually do my own research, like in the real sense.
So somewhere in the notes, compliance feels like love. Choices feels like a betrayal.
Reading out of this right-wing women book.
Yeah. Oh, no, but yeah, you're saying compliance can feel like love. Because again, I feel like in a lot of situations, if you're doing what the other person, whether it's your parent, partner, or whoever we're talking about here, if you're doing what they want you to do, and then that's like conditional version of their love, you're gonna get caught in that trap. And we do it from small kids. I want my mom and dad to be proud of me, so I do these things, or I do all of this, and then it creates this like cyclical. It feels like a trap in many ways.
Especially to a narcissistic leader. You did what I wanted you to do. You did what I told you to do, or you thought I wanted you to do. And that feels like love to me, right? You're doing what I want you to do.
Yeah.
I have to be really introspective because Laura is like a servant. I don't want to say that in the wrong way, but She really cares about people, and she'll go out of her way to help you no matter who you are, and things like that. So that can feel like love to me. But is she doing that because I'm giving her messages like I expect this? Is she doing that because she feels subservient to me and I'm the leader and those kind of things? And when she challenges me, does that feel like betrayal? But to a narcissist, it's like all of that makes me feel good because they're doing what I want them to do, and that's all that matters.
But you bring up a great point, and I feel like it also like connects into what like JD was saying too. Like for us to be able to, the idea of challenging a thought, if that like somehow means betrayal, in a situation where we're just discussing or going or being in life with somebody, that should tell you that you're not in a good situation.
Right.
I mean, if that's
Exactly.
the answer, like if I challenge your thought, because again, yeah, I think I mentioned being around my in-laws, it became very obvious to me that and they're very MAGA, that everything is nice and happy, but if you were to mention anything about their orange Cheeto Messiah there, it was like an attack on them. And you'd go from like a 1 to an 11. And it just makes it super difficult when you're dealing with folks that challenging is betrayal, or even asking questions is betrayal.
Yeah. Every marriage thing I ever went to inside of religion was based on compliance. It was based on 100 ways to send flowers kind of things. This is what she wants. This is how I give it to her. Conversely, they would say, what do men want? They want sex, so give it to them. Find creative ways to give it to them. And that's compliance. It's not love. They have to have the choice to do it and do it of their own initiative. There's nothing wrong, I don't think, with saying, I love it when you do this. I love the help here. I even love the feedback, all those kind of things. If we can have those kind of conversations, way better than God has a way and the pastor has refined that into this thing that you have to do. And therefore, as a husband, I'm in charge. So you'll do what I want, and that's love. I think it's the opposite.
Those are
My
all
children have taught me about that more than anything.
Yeah, those are conversation enders that the churches we've learned to do, like to end those kind of conversations. And isn't it also weird that the churches taught us that, like, well, this is how you handle the women, and this is how you handle the men, and they like these things, and some of it's just like, can we not just teach people how to just be good humans to other humans instead of like putting them in like these categories and boxes where we're inherently talking down or to, it boggles my mind why can't we just learn to be co-people in all of this? Like,
because that would upset the hierarchies. I mean, I have to say, a lot of stuff you guys are bringing up dealt with in this book written by a Jewish radical feminist. But anyway,
right-wing women, for those that aren't watching the video.
If you want to watch, if you want, it goes through a lot of the same things that basically like until there's like equity and the fact that like we can't use coercion, like there will be no like actual dialogue between men and women, and there will be no actual like dealing with any of these problems. But if you want to look at like, again, we can't remember if we were talking about this on podcast or off podcast, but like if you want to read a slightly like, if you're a little bit scared, you're a little bit triggered by the feminists, I get it. Read Bell Hooks's book that I was talking about earlier, like A Feminism is for Everybody. Like those, that's fine. But this is a much more radical, but it does take on Christianity specifically, but religion in general. But again, I think it all goes to like maintaining hierarchies. And that's why I tend to come out a little bit more on the anarchist side, because I just don't think it works out well. Because you don't have discussions when there's a hierarchy. You have deference.
Do boundaries feel selfish, you guys? And
sometimes.
Selfish?
Yeah, when I was first learning it, especially because I was raised in a dysfunctional family where that wasn't allowed to have autonomy and make my own choices, like it felt like you're like, oh God, I'm being selfish. Even like putting it back in like conservative church language, it was just like I'm leaning too much on my own flesh, and I'm not being like sacrificial on how I'm acting here. And this boundary, someone else may need something, but it's very beautiful and leads to total burnout and people and trauma.
I think when you guys went through this as pastors as well, but like I know like as a teacher, I do push myself to like not shut people down, but yeah, there are definitely times when I'm just like, listen, like, and the thing is like, I have 14-year-old students that can recognize it when I'm like, they're like, you look tired. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking burnt out. So yeah, like I'll do my best, but like today is not a great day for me. And so it like, there may be things where I'm like, write it down, send an email to me. I'll deal with it like in a day or two, but I got so much shit on my plate. You just got to give me a little bit of time. And they do. Like, that's the thing is you can, that's why it similar. I feel the same, like, Zoolander line. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's not that hard to talk to people that way. Like, if I can do it with 14-year-olds and say like, listen, we gotta shut it down today. Listen, I gotta rest. Otherwise I'm not gonna give you good advice anyway. Give me a day, I'll get it done for you. They can accept that. If an adult, a full grown adult can't accept that, then that's their fucking problem. And maybe they need to sit in timeout for a while, and you just need to not deal with them.
I'm hearing relationship and communication again, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. It's not just that, like, some people I find doing this is they just ignore all communication and don't ever get back to you, things like that. You don't know what they're thinking and those kind of things. It's real easy to say, I'm overwhelmed right now. Can I get back to you next week? Those kind of things. That's still a boundary, and it's still appropriate, and it's still helpful to that person because they're not wondering what you think or whether you're going to get back to them and those kind of things. So,
and it gives you a break. It gives you a break to be a human and to be able just to be like, we can feel like that, like, well, I'm letting them down if I don't do this. But the goal is to have a good relationship with this other person that you're with. And you just being able to say, like, yeah, I'm, on all honesty, I'm maxed out. I got nothing. And, like you were saying, Jay, like, if you want advice tonight, I'm going to give you awful advice. But if you actually want good advice, let me get in a headspace where I can do that. And I think it's big. But the other thing that gets me is, with boundaries, what they'll also teach you is how people respond when you have them. And you can, it's easy to weed out people that are narcissists or just toxic people in your lives as well too, where you're like, oh, I can't do that today, and they flip out on it. You're realizing that, oh, they don't care about me personally. They don't care about my health, my boundaries, or anything. They're wanting what they want right now, and I am simply just kind of a product to them.
Can boundaries, I don't want to ask a yes or no question, but I don't know how to rephrase this. Can boundaries lead to control? I mean, like, could I, under the guise of setting boundaries, be controlling of people? It's
100%.
It's almost manipulative sometimes, right?
100%, you could.
I'm saying I'm setting a boundary, but it's really, I just want you to beg a little more or something. It's something like that, right?
Or boundaries end up being kind of rules and things like that too, which I think can,
or prerequisites for the communication in general. You have to do this in order to talk to me. You have to, like, whatever. Let's use the wife thing, like, you have to, like, cook dinner for me, or, like, it's if people want to investigate this, like, it's like the warm bath theory, but, like, it's that, like, when I come home, like, dinner should be ready, blah blah blah, in order for you to meet the criteria for me to treat you with respect. Like, and it's bullshit. Like, it's just that shouldn't be how it works. We should be able to explain it to each other. But again, that sets up this, like, hierarchy where, like, you have to meet all my needs in order for me to give you what you desire so much. And if that's what someone requires of you, just like if Jim Baker sends you a message and says you need to send me $1,000, you should say, get fucked, like, meet me where I am. And
wait, get fucked and meet me where I am? That could be an invitation.
Yeah, he would.
Or meet me where I am.
Jim's like, excuse me?
Turn it around the other way.
I know.
Meet me where I am, and then...
Yeah.
I've seen almost every person that has a Sunday family day that I've experienced in my life always violates that boundary if it's something they want to do. If they just don't want to do the difficult thing of talking to people. You could set a family day and say, we're going to cut down all outside communication on this day. We're going to do our thing and heal and rest and so on. But don't use it as a form of manipulation. I don't want to talk to you, so I got family day. I found that with Tim Whitaker. He said, well, Sunday's my family day, so I can't really talk. And then the next thing I know, he's sending me messages and so on. And
On Sunday?
on Sunday.
On Sunday?
Yeah, because
Hail Satan.
he's trying to defend his own name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not a boundary you're setting. It's just an excuse. And so I think those boundaries have to be genuine. Like you said, they can't be rules, right? They're anyway. I lost what I was trying to say.
I can't imagine being that rigorous with it. Like in terms of like being like I have this rule or whatever, but I'm just like also going to violate it when it fits. Like I just don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly like don't reply to people very quickly because like I leave the messages open in my like whatever, like when you pull down your phone, your notifications. I'm just like, all right, I got to reply to this, but like I can't do it now because I got 3 other things to do. And then, but like I can't imagine having that much time on your hands to just be able to like manipulate people with like, I'm going to let this one sit for 2 days and this one sit for 3 days. It's diabolical.
I like that because I've never had that thought process before, that a boundary can become a rule. You guys have been enlightening to me today. I like this.
No, because you mentioned like having like, Sunday's is family day. I knew kids growing up to where it was like they weren't allowed to do anything on Sunday because it was family day. And you'd ask them, what do you do? I don't know. We just can't leave the house. Do you do stuff as a family? No.
Yeah.
Or do we just do it? What? Then that boundary just becomes a cage. Yeah. And
I mean, it is a cold tactic though, because it's like we all have to suffer at the same time. Basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
That's what spending time with family is. Suffering.
Generally,
Get used to it.
Really speaking. Oh shit, Dad's on this call. No, like no, but like it is such a control tactic. But that's my thing is like I don't get how people don't see that in some cases. But I guess if you're raised in it, I don't want to talk down to people.
But we do all the time.
It frustrates me.
It's the high of righteousness again.
Yeah, we're
up in family day on Sunday.
Yeah.
We're better than you, and we're doing it right. And it may just be avoidism. I don't want to do the hard things, but the Sabbath. I think the idea of the Sabbath is not a specific day. It's a time of rest when you need it, and definitely we should do that. We should make mental health a priority. Sleep is a good priority to have, right? Time with our family and our communities is good. All those things are good. But like you guys said, when it becomes a rule, then it can even become abusive, right? You're not a good person.
Are you saying that Sorry, go ahead.
You're not a good person if you don't obey the rules, right? So what are we going to say, JD?
I was just going to ask, are you saying that the Seventh-day Adventists who have been holding on to this idea that the Sabbath is a certain day, but like haven't been worried about the fact that we've switched calendars multiple times? Are you saying that they may be worshiping on the wrong day, aka that they're all going to hell?
Yeah.
That's tough.
I'm saying
they're missing out on lobster too and shrimp. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm saying there's not a day, and all the fish Fridays and stuff like that is all culture. Like we've mentioned before, religion is culture. It's culture. It's what I'm used to. It's a thing we decided to do in the past that we now do. It's now a rule. It's a law. And that's not real boundaries. I think boundaries involve your intuition. I just need sometimes, Stuart, real honestly, you've told me that in the past. You've said, Carl, I'm going through some stuff. I need some time, right? Totally respect that. I love that. Way more than, well, Carl, I can't talk to you because it's family day. What if I'm about to unalive myself? Would you talk to me then? What if I have a serious struggle? You still might have to say, I can't do it, Carl. I literally can't do it. You may have to tell me no. That's okay. Right? But to live on that rule, like I only read the Bible. Can't do anything on Sunday unless I get tickets to the ball game.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not living on it because it's just using it as an excuse until you find something that's more exciting to take its place.
Same people that enforce those strict rules also talk about choice. They talk about, what's the word I'm looking for? Free will.
Pro-choice.
I have free will. I have choices, but I have all these laws that I've developed over time. Can't go anywhere on Sunday. I can't
Isn't it interesting because we'll call that culture, but it's just like I guess it's a culture of conformity, is what we've kind of systematized in certain ways in
Yeah.
different
And
kinds of tribes.
it's
I
not
have
new, and
read-
it's also not like a Christianity thing. I mean, like when you guys are talking about this, like the first thing I think of is like Orthodox Jews.
Mhm.
Like they've created like a bunch of ridiculous rules that don't adhere to like actually like the Torah or whatever, the Old Testament, whatever phrasing you want to use. Like they just make shit up, and then they find ways. They make these fucking stupid rules that they have to follow, and then they find caveats to them, like
Mhm.
you know, the Shabbos goyim and shit. Like it's just like ridiculous, and like it's not, you know, obviously we have to differentiate between like different types of Jewish individuals, but like in terms of like the very Orthodox ones, like, oh, you can't turn on lights. Well, but you can hire someone to do it for you. It's
Yep.
just like,
Yep.
what the fuck are we doing, guys? Like, just turn on
Yeah.
the fucking lights. It's fine, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's chill. You can just, it's okay to have a good time. You don't have to pretend like you're suffering, but like actually you have like a servant to do it for you. It's just
Mhm.
such bullshit. But
So is wiping your ass, is that considered work on a Sunday?
if I can hire someone to do it
Depends on
for
what
me,
you
I'm
ate
going
the day
to.
before.
That's true. It's true.
Jesus.
Depends on what you ate.
We'll get it. I guess there's kosher bidets. Is that how it goes? It does the work for you.
Is that just dill pickle juice in your asshole?
We also want to strongly support, things like women having the right to set boundaries.
Oh,
It's
yes,
not okay to slap me on the ass. It's not okay to talk about
Mm-hmm.
Black people that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's many times when it's required of us as white males, especially, you may call that locker room talk, but that's not
Mhm.
helpful and it's not good. And I can speak up about that and set boundaries about what people do to my body or don't do to my body and so on. But there are boundaries, and we can set boundaries. Like you guys said, when it becomes a law, then that's when it just devolves into control.
Yeah,
And
I
it's not
think
just the churches, like JD said. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that, and this is not something that we can do right now because we could probably have like a 2-hour conversation on it right now. But I wonder, because I tend to fall on this side, is that like kind of what you're talking about right there, Dad, of like these people that have like, that are just like pretend to be holier than thou and then kind of have these like grandiose ideas of like everyone needs to follow my way, or like I'm going to control my like, you know, my children or my wife, my woman or whatever. Like, is it, for me, I always try to figure out, is it better to like engage them on like the actual issues, or is it better to just make fun of those people and be like, you're just a fucking idiot? Like, I don't know. Sorry to bring up, this
It
is just a
depends.
tangent that was,
I feel like
I think that's
it
true.
depends. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I tend to agree with that. But I feel like it's a hard thing to do, especially with the internet, because I think so many times, like on the internet, it's just like, oh, just dunk on this piece of shit. But like, I think sometimes it's like, nah, you shouldn't dunk on this person. And I do it all the time. Like I shit on people all the time. But like, I do think we have to be careful about that because like, yeah, anyway, this could, again, we maybe we can do this in the future. It's just a thought I had, but I agree with you, Stuart. I think it really depends.
That's a perfect way to end it when people are agreeing with me. So
It all depends. We
That's
all
my
agree with
boundary.
Stuart. He's our Messiah.
that's my boundary.
And
I've
we
drawn the
respect
line.
his boundaries.
Yep. I'm good with that.